The Guardian of the Black Shores and the one that weathers the waves, the Shorekeeper, will be dropping in just over a week from now. And unlike all of the other exclusive characters we have received so far being DPS characters, the Shorekeeper will be our first support character, which does allow Verina to finally have some time off. The Shorekeeper being our first limited support character alone makes her insanely valuable. Then paired with having one of the best character designs in the game, you have a character many players will definitely be looking forward to picking up. So with that, I'll be going over the Ascension and skill upgrade materials the Shorekeeper would require, her team synergies, best weapons, viable echo builds, and ultimately, if you should summon for the Shorekeeper. Just before we jump into it, as always, would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel for more WutheringWaves content and drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Now as for the Shorekeeper's Ascension and skill upgrade materials, there are a few materials that will be locked behind the 1.3 version update, as you'll only be able to farm them in the Black Shores. So as for the stuff we can pre-farm, you'll need 29 green Whispering Cores, 40 blue Whispering Cores, 52 purple Whispering Cores, and 61 gold Whispering Cores for both Ascension and skill upgrades. As usual, the best way to pick these up would be farming open world enemies that drop Whispering Cores, which you can track within your guidebook. But to be even more efficient, you'll want to take out the enemies that drop Whispering Cores within the Rejuvenating Glow set first, since this set is very likely going to be the best echo set for the Shorekeeper, as it's quite literally made for supports. Now along with the Whispering Cores, the Shorekeeper will also need 25 green helixes, 28 blue helixes, 55 purple helixes, and 67 gold helixes, which you would be picking up through the Forgery Challenge. As for the weekly boss and open world boss to farm, you'll need to pick up 26 Sentinel Daggers from the Dewey weekly boss and 46 Topological Singularities from the Fallacy of No Return boss. However, the Fallacy of No Return boss is locked behind the 1.3 version update, as I mentioned earlier. Also, the 60 open world materials you would usually collect and would be able to buy from the pharmacy is another material you would only be able to pick up in the Black Shores. So that being said, once the 1.3 update is live and you are picking up those open world materials for the Shorekeeper, you should be able to pick up 15 instantly from the pharmacy for 45,000 credits. Finally, along with all of these materials, you will need 2.2 million credits. But if you are also picking up the signature weapon, then of course you will need more credits, helixes, and Whispering Cores. So just bear that in mind. Now moving on to the shortest team synergy segment I'll probably ever go over. The Shorekeeper quite literally synergizes with any DPS character in the game, given she is the upgraded version of Verina. So if you have Verina, you would know exactly how flexible the Shorekeeper will be, and the fact that she will literally be on every single team from here on out. As for one of the Shorekeeper's more notable aspects from her kit, she will have the ability to increase crit rates and I believe also crit damage for her allies. So the fact that every DPS character in the game currently benefits from building crit rate and crit damage, again means that every DPS character would benefit massively with the Shorekeeper beside them. Maybe later down the line, once we start receiving DPS characters that aren't influenced by their crit stats and possibly deal damage scaling off their HP, of course then the Shorekeeper wouldn't exactly be able to buff their damage. But till then, the Shorekeeper will be able to support every DPS character in the game, which completely future-proofs her. Now as for the best weapons for the Shorekeeper, as usual, the signature weapon, which is made for the character, will definitely be the best in slot. The signature weapon itself has a massive 77% energy regen main stat, increases the equipper's HP by 12%, recovers 8 concerto energy when casting Deliberation, and finally, increases the team's attack by 14% for 30 seconds when casting an intro skill that heals. So this signature weapon is completely stacked, and not only does it significantly benefit the Shorekeeper, but also her allies. Now the Shorekeeper does have a requirement of reaching roughly 250% energy regen to maximize the buffs she can provide to the team. So the fact that the signature weapon provides the most energy regen on a weapon will make it much easier to build the Shorekeeper, as it will reduce the pressure on having to obtain perfect echoes. So all in all, the signature weapon is amazing for the Shorekeeper, and since you can swap the weapon onto someone like Verina in Tower of Adversity, it's more like you are pulling this weapon for more than just one character, as every support character that can heal through the intro skill will be able to fully utilize this weapon and bring significant value to the team. So of course that also means the weapon will have an insane amount of longevity, which makes it extremely valuable for your account. Now, unlike most signature weapons having terrible alternatives, the Shorekeeper will actually have a few decent alternatives since she requires a weapon with energy regen as the main stat, opposed to a crit main stat which is pretty hard to come by. With that, the best alternative would definitely be the Variation, which is a weapon I would like to consider as a hidden 5-star weapon, given the huge amount of concerto energy it provides through the passive, especially if you have pulled a few duplicates of the weapon. So that, along with the 51% energy regen main stat, makes this a great alternative for the Shorekeeper, as you could even consider the Variation to be a scaled down version of the signature weapon, since it provides the exact same amount of concerto energy as S1 and a sizable amount of energy regen as the main stat. So again, this will definitely be the best alternative if you aren't pulling for the signature weapon. The next best alternative would be Rectifier number 25, given it also provides 51% energy regen as the main stat, along with restoring HP and increasing the equipper's attack by 12%. Now the passive wouldn't really benefit the Shorekeeper that much since it's just a self-heal and an attack buff. But given the main stat provides energy regen, which the Shorekeeper will need a ton of, pretty much carries the weapon and makes it a decent alternative. Now, unless you are going for a DPS Shorekeeper build, the 5-star rectifiers wouldn't really be that valuable in comparison to the 4-star rectifiers, since the Shorekeeper really just needs a weapon with an energy regen main stat, which none of the 5-star rectifiers provide. Maybe the Cosmic Ripples would be okay as an alternative due to the 12.8% energy regen it provides through the passive, but this would still likely be best for a DPS Shorekeeper, since then you are gaining a massive boost in attack, basic attack damage bonus, and a small boost in energy regen. So overall, for a strong support build on your Shorekeeper, an energy regen main stat weapon is the way to go. Now as for the best echo sets for the Shorekeeper, as I mentioned earlier, the Rejuvenating Glow set will definitely be the best in slot, given the 2-piece effect provides a 10% healing bonus and the 5-piece effect increases the attack of allies by 15% for 30 seconds. So the Rejuvenating Glow set would simply provide the most value to your team, since the Shorekeeper would be providing more heals and a considerable attack buff. Now, since I mentioned the Shorekeeper will require a staggering amount of energy regen, you do have the option of running a 2-piece Rejuvenating Glow set and a 2-piece Moonlit Cloud set, since then you would receive a 10% healing bonus and 10% energy regen. Of course, this build wouldn't be the most optimal build since you are sacrificing a 15% attack buff to the team for just 10% energy regen, but it's still a viable option for those that do need energy regen or are still building their full Rejuvenating Glow set, and just so happen to have a few solid Moonlit Cloud Echoes. However, since I'm guessing most of you already have Verina built up on your account with the Rejuvenating Glow set, you would be able to save a ton of time since you can simply switch over the set to the Shorekeeper. That being said, it only kinda applies to the 3-cost echoes, since the 1-cost echoes for Verina would have attack main stats, whereas the Shorekeeper would likely need HP percent. Also, the Bell Turtle 4-cost echo is going to be a good main echo for the Shorekeeper, but not the best, since the Fallacy of No Return is definitely going to be a 4-cost echo tailor-made for the Shorekeeper, just like how Jiyan was made for Jinxin back in 1.1. So ultimately, you would want to use the Fallacy of No Return Echo, but in the meantime, till you have obtained a good piece, you can use the Bell Turtle as the 4-cost Echo. Now as for the Echo build and main stats, the 43311 build would be the best build as usual, but since there will be 2 4-cost Echoes for the Rejuvenating Glow set, there is the option to also run 44111 if you are struggling to pull a few solid 3-cost Echoes. As for the main stats on a 43311 build, healing bonus is going to be priority for the 4-cost, along with HP percent being an option to run too. The 3-cost without a doubt will require energy regen to help achieve that massive amount of ER the Shorekeeper requires, and the 1-cost echoes will simply want HP percent. As for the substats, it should be a given that energy regen will definitely be the most valuable, following with HP percent, flat HP, and as for the other 2 stats, it could literally be anything. so building the Shorekeeper should be quite easy in comparison to the limited characters we've had so far, since she is a support character which do tend to require much less investment in general. Now finally, as for should you summon for the Shorekeeper, yes, no beating around the bush with this one. The Shorekeeper is our first limited support character, and I do believe will be our only limited support for a while, given they just don't drop as often as DPS characters. Also, since in general they hold enough longevity to be usable and maintain their value for months to even years, so there really isn't a need for that many support characters. Now lastly, if you are a player that would like a much more comfortable experience in WutheringWaves overall, the Shorekeeper will simply be able to provide just that. Whether it's through Tower of Adversity, where you would need multiple support characters to help you clear it, or even just in general combat in the open world, since the crit buffs the Shorekeeper can provide to allies will definitely reduce the pressure on having to obtain those perfect echoes. So the Shorekeeper is just extremely valuable, and I would definitely recommend to pick her up. However, I understand if some of you might not want to pick her up since Camellia has been confirmed for 1.4. But I would still advise on throwing in a couple Monties on the Shorekeeper's banner at least, since there is a slim chance you do pull her, and with Yoo-Hoo also being featured, the banner will be more valuable than most. That being said, it is completely down to you. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel for more WutheringWaves content, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Also drop a comment down below on whether you will be pulling for the Shorekeeper or will you somehow be skipping. And yeah, hope to catch you guys later.